get bageled in this second set tiebreak.
Is it a bagel? Do we use that for tiebreak?
Skunked, maybe. Creamed.
Yeah, pasted, and all sorts of other things. Yeah, so 5-0 now. From Jax's perspective, you need Safiullin to win some points to get you your 10 aces.
Hundreds of match points. Hi, Terry.
Matthew's tweeting now in I think Chinese, but it could be Japanese for all I know, or any other Asian language.
I think you have some of the best crowds and comment sections on YouTube, John.
Oh, Safiullin, that return into the net, 6-0.
I have no idea why I get the Denmark flag and the Norway flag confused often.
Are they not the same colours? Oh, they're similar. I mean, you got blue but blue in Norway. How are you going to absorb that? Blue in Norway. Sometimes I'm trying to think of how I sometimes learn words in foreign languages. I sort of have rules. For example, here's one for you. The word when I'm teaching English, actually, I used to tell my students, Spanish students, I say, think of a dog on a boat, because boat in Spanish is barco. So if I'm teaching the word to bark, it's like, just think of a dog running around on a boat and just barking. To teach, you say it different in the US, but in the UK we call it a boot. You call it the trunk, where you put your luggage, right? But we call it in British English the boot, and I would always tell my students to think of the boot full of boots, Wellington boots. But anyway, that's going off at a tangent there. He's done it, 7-0, so job done.
Hour and 37 minutes. That's pretty. I mean, he barring a meetup with Dimitrov, and Dimitrov plays great and Holger does not, he should be lifting this title, which I feel like raises his stock at a good performance in Melbourne. So
yeah, true. I think he only won
this puts him in the semis, doesn't it?
This puts him in the final. No.
Hang on. No,
yes, final.
It does.
Saturday. Yes, it's
wow.
Friday. It's Friday for you, but it's Saturday for the Australians.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, yeah. If Jordan Thompson beats Dimitrov, then Rune should definitely win this title. And then even if Dimitrov gets to the final, Holger's still the favorite. So yeah. And Holger should be lifting this title.
It's one more match to go, as we see Safiullin blowing out his cheeks. It's one more match to go, but
there's a lot going on randomly right now. Kerber and Tomljanović just basically got underway. Svitolina is up 4-1 in the final, trying to get to her first championship match of the season. Also, speaking of championship matches, to my knowledge, Emil Rusevori does not have an ATP level title, and he's in the semifinals of the ATP 250 in Hong Kong. And I feel like, I mean, there's a good enough chance that he could sneak and get one finally. I think the other men in the semifinals are Rublev and Jerry Shang. So I don't know. Rusevori could be a surprise titleist going into Australia.
For newbies winning titles, I'm keen for Jan-Lennard Struff and Djokovic Fokina and Bocic van der Manstrup. Those three. I mean, I think of those three, Djokovic Fokina will get there one day, whether that's this year or next.
But can't you see him doing something really boneheaded on the championship point?
Yeah, I can.
Like doing a cartwheel for no reason.
That's why I know Jane, who's in the chat, for example, loves him, and I'm a fan too. I see it's Kerber up a break, but now Tomljanović got 2 great points.
He's a fun one.
Yeah, he's a fun one. But my fear is for the other two, because Bocic, I think, was up. A double break on Holger Rune. Holger Rune, by the way, I don't want to say this as we were just talking about him. In the whole of 2023, I think he won 1 title. So if for him to win a title in the first week of I'm just going to listen to his speech. Hang on, see what he's got to say. He might get asked about his stresses. We can play this, Holger. I'm calling you Holger, Miles. You're Miles. He's Holger.
In the second set, and he was on me right away. And broke me there with 2-1.
I wonder what he's going to look like if he grows in his facial hair. I can't see it.
I think I did well, to be honest. You know, I managed to put him under pressure most of the time when he was hitting hard. I was there with some good counter punch, so I'm very happy.
You certainly were. That tiebreak in particular was clinical. And I can see you were dealing quite a bit with your box, who I know, your team are very important to you. How much were they helping you in those moments? I could see there was a bit of frustration at times, but you worked through it really well.
Yeah, I was so frustrated after he broke me, actually, because I lost completely focus. So yeah, thanks to my team for keeping me on track and managed to close it out in 2 sets. It's very good, for the energy. Managed to stay mentally good enough today. It's harder, as longer you go through the week, as more you feel it. But yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm playing some better tennis every day, so that's what I'm focusing on. And physically, I'm great, so I'm happy.
You played brilliant.
Do you hear this okay, Miles?
Tonight,
yeah, perfectly.
How do you prepare now? What do you do? A bit of recovery, something to eat, and then watch tonight's other semi?
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely watch a little bit with my seats off, enjoy a bit. Yeah, I know it was, a crazy match yesterday with Thompson and Rafa, so, definitely gonna enjoy a bit after dinner to watch a bit, but mostly just focusing on myself to get ready physically, mentally, to prepare, because no matter who it's gonna be a tough match, so I'm just gonna try to get as ready as possible.
Well, Holger, you've been turning it on all week. Congratulations. One more to go through to another final. Well,
there you go. Holger Rune. That's his words.
I think he makes the semi of a major this year or better.
Yeah, maybe. There was a question from Terry, actually, I think I saw from a long time ago that I wanted to answer before bring this to a close. But I can't remember what the question was, Terry. So maybe you have to repeat it if you're still there. I think he's leaving the chat anyway. Yeah, semi. That sounds reasonable to me. And I think that would be a step forward. Just winning titles, I think, is huge for these guys. And of course, for him or Shelton and, of course, they obviously ultimately want to lift the biggest trophies in the game. I'm not saying they don't. But if we're here in a year from now and Holger's won another 1,000, for example, or Shelton's won a 1,000, I think that's a good year, and they've maintained their top or Shelton's in the ATP Tour the ATP Tour finals, yeah, and Rune's there again. It's another good year. That's not to say that he won't win a slam maybe this year or get to a final, but yeah.
If we're having this conversation 4 years from now and he hasn't won,
that's different. That's where we're having it 6 years from now with Stefanos Tsitsipas, if we think about it.
Oh, we're having the conversation now about if he's ever going to do it. I think the conversation it's fair. Really? It's fair to have the conversation for him and Zverev.
Miles, go on.
Zverev is just benefiting from I guess the sparkle of the comeback that he kind of went on in 2023, even though it wasn't, I've seen much better comebacks, but when it comes to both of them, the jury's out on if they're ever going to win a Grand Slam, let alone get back to the final of one. So there's some competition.
He's absolutely on this list of 4 players, but I haven't quite narrowed down the other 3. And I'm going to put a Twitter poll out there and various other places where you can post polls to ask the question, who is the most likely to win a Grand Slam? And so he's on this sort of list of 4 question marks, okay? And it has to be a similar sort of age range. So Rune won't be on there. Sinner won't be on there. But players such as, Rublev could be on there, for example.
He should be.
You put Rublev, Tsitsipas. Who else sort of falls into this sort of 23, 24, 25, 26 category?
Zverev and Casper
definitely,
Ruud.
Yeah.
And Casper Ruud for sure, I think.
Casper Ruud, maybe, yeah. But you can only get 4 on Twitter, so you got to, maybe Ruud is on it. I'll have to look at the rankings. And
I think it should be Ruud, Rublev, Zverev, and Tsitsipas. All of them except Rublev have been to Grand Slam finals. All of them have been top 5. All of them have won. Well, all of them except Casper have won 1,000s.
Casper, yeah. Right. Did you see that clip of Casper with Bublik going? What was that? How many?
When he was going through his draw at the U.S. Open and saying
maybe he went a bit too far. You're right. Yeah.
I think Bublik did it kind of just right. I don't think Pedro would be seeing him in the locker room and kind of wanting to go to fisticuffs over that comment.
No.
Yeah. And actually, Pedro won a 250 last year, didn't he? I think in where did he win that? I think it was post Wimbledon clay. He won his first ATP title. So yeah, I think he's.
You're talking about Cashin now?
Yeah, Pedro.
Yeah, he gets a bit of shade, doesn't he?
Yeah. And so does Kitzbühel and Gustad and yeah, all of that.
I tell you some other. I mean, I'll have to because I pity on. As I say on Twitter, you only get four names, but other possibles to add to this list, and I think in the similar category would be Hurkacz and Fritz.
Agreed. Yeah, but they're second tier. I would put them in the second tier for sure.
So you think if I just put purely, I might even do as like a tournament. I might, like you see these Twitter things where you get like 8-team tournament, who's quarterfinals. Hurkacz.
I don't like that idea.
That you do or you don't like it?
I don't like that idea. Like I think there should be a tier of 4. Like because I think there's 4 players that are all kind of in the same cohort of experiences that could go up against each other as who out of this 4 are going to win a slam.
I know, but Hurkacz has been in a Grand Slam semifinal,
and I think it would be Hurkacz, Fritz.
Who's more likely to win a slam, Fritz or Tsitsipas?
Tsitsipas.
Right. So Tsitsipas is now in. Who's more likely to win a slam, Casper Ruud or Taylor Fritz?
Casper Ruud.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rublev or Fritz?
Rublev.
And who was the 4th one? I forgot. Oh, Zverev. Zverev. And he's yeah. I would. Yeah.
And you could do the same thing with replace Fritz with Hurkacz on all of those, and I would probably say the same thing.
I would put Hurkacz above Fritz. I think
they are neck and neck. I think because I can see both of them absolutely crumbling at the opportunity. I really could see it. Like Fritz would do
more.
No, I think Hubie actually more because I was watching. There was a certain angle. There was a thank you. Thank you for what, Matthew? What did I say? That jogged your thank you. But
probably because he loves Rublev, so.
Oh yeah. Boy. I think that's what I was saying. There was a certain angle today in United Cup with Hubie versus Manarino, and I get the impression for some reason that Hubie is holding so much back on his ground strokes. I don't get why though. Like he looks like he's intentionally trying not to rev up the MPHs or the RPMs for that matter, and just really lean into his ground strokes. And I'm like, dude, isn't he like 6'6", 6'7"? He's like the pictures I saw from him at the beach, he is a strong guy. He should not be. I love the fact that he has the endurance and the ability to go into lockdown mode, but that should not always be the default. There were several moments, even though he won that match, where he could have really leaned into a forehand and peppered it, and he doesn't do that. And I think that would make me believe he could be a Grand Slam champion instead of a Shanghai and COVID Masters 1000 champion in Miami. Like he has to lean into his shots and believe that there's strength in them. Sometimes he doesn't believe that he has strength in his shots, and it's like you have it on your serve, put it on your forehand and backhand. That's what I would tell him.
I'm scarred by quite a few matches when I've watched Taylor Fritz play the elite as well.
Oh yeah, he does the opposite of what Hubie does. Actually, I think he hits through, but he kind of brainlessly hits. When things get tight, it's almost like he goes back to a drill with a ball machine. There's very little angle and there's not enough massaging of the point and realizing how to take advantage of the court. He just hits the same ball over and over again. And like at that point, once you got to like that point of a match, the opponent's either gotten used to it or can get used to it in that moment to kind of like outlast you, because he doesn't do anything different. There's no slice, there's no high arching ball. It's the same trajectory of a ball, which is good. It's just that it doesn't elevate him in moments where he needs to elevate himself. So That's how I look at Fritz.
Yeah. I've just been, I'm thinking about the Rafa quarterfinal at Wimbledon. I'm thinking
Perfect
about,
example.
yeah, Djokovic also. I don't know what his plan was when he played Djokovic in New York last year, but he didn't seem to believe in it, whatever that plan was. And I think he can do better. That's my point with Fritz. I think Fritz can do Djokovic on a hard court. You lose in 4 sets, fine. You lose in tightly contested 3 sets. This is not. It's not. I'm not setting a too high a bar here. I'm just saying, can you win a few tennis games?
I think if you take away his Indian Wells title, you might change your bar for him. Because if you take that away, he's won Tokyo, which is a 500. The rest of his titles are 250s. And a 250, the Indian Wells title is now an outlier instead of what I think his average is or what his average could be. And 2 major quarterfinals where he kind of had chances in one, and the other one he just was completely outplayed from the beginning. I feel like I don't know. I don't see what new level Taylor Fritz gets to this year. Like I think he's a good player, but between 10 and 20 is where he'll be. Maybe 8. Maybe 8.
When we're talking about these players, I think to myself, how are they going to do against the absolute elite, if you like? So whether that be, a Nadal or an Alcaraz on a French Open, or a Novak on Rod Laver or on centre court at Wimbledon, and actually, Hubie can do something. Hubie, had 4 sets with Novak, and he could just hold serve all day.
Yeah.
And you know what? He could have and should have won 2 tie breaks as well. It was very, very close. So I'm not saying that Hubie wins that match, that often, but that's a close match. It's 4 sets, could have been 5, and
I think
5 closely contested sets.
I think things change once I've said this all the time, but I think things seriously change once the third pillar of the big 3 is out in Novak Djokovic, because I don't see anyone coming up. It could be Sinner, it could be Rune that can kind of sit with Carlos Alcaraz's level that he's shown the past 2 years, but those are coulds. As it stands right now, if you take away Novak Djokovic, then it makes me understand a world that I could live in where Hubie Hurkacz and Taylor Fritz pick up Grand Slams. Because at that point, I don't believe Carlos versus the field ends up in Carlos winning every time. Whereas Novak Djokovic versus the field, he likely wins 3 out of those 4 majors when it's him against the field. Carlos might win 1 or 2. Which is great. I would take that to win 1 or 2. I just don't think he's primed for like a 3 Grand Slams in a year. That takes I mean, Novak's done it 3 times in his career. So he's a freak of nature in that regard, but I don't know if Carlos is that level of consistency yet. He has the game, just being able to consistently do it with the style of game that he has, it takes a lot out of him. So to do that 3 or 4 times out of the year and get the win at the end of the day, I don't know. So that makes me think there's going to be opportunities for other people like Rublev, Hubie, Fritz, maybe Tsitsipas and Zverev, if they can just hold on a little bit while longer, because the other generations coming, like Arthur Fils and Medjedovic and Prismic, and they're coming, but there's an opportunity of window as big as I think somebody has to kind of give Novak the boot and or Father Time kind of turns his head on Novak, and some of those small injuries become big injuries. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but it's just the way sports work sometimes. Or somebody, there's going to have to be some organized series of losses where Novak starts to look at his mortality in the game and realize that he maybe isn't the best of the best anymore. And at that point, he probably wouldn't want to play much more because he's been the best of the best for so long. I wish somebody could clip all of what I'm saying. And any time that someone is like in my mentions on Twitter telling me that like I'm a Novak Djokovic hater, I would just play this because I'm giving him plenty of praise in this moment. He's just not my favorite. I can't make myself be a fan of somebody that I'm not a fan of. Anyway,
Novak could. Yeah, there could be a point when he gets to 26, 27 slams.
Yeah.
And he might be then just slipping down a little bit. Let's say he's where someone like a Rafa is right now, who's maybe praying for one more slam.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
And he might just go, you know what, I'm 5 ahead of Rafa, who's now retired. I'm 7 ahead of Roger, who's retired. Particularly if he's won his Olympic gold, for example, then it's basically done, you know. And
it's like, what are we here for?
Yeah, is he? Records are there to be broken, and in a way, if he holds on to that, let's say it's 27 slams, if he holds on to that 27 slam record for 15 years or 50 years or 150 years, it doesn't really make much difference, you know. I remember a comedy, and maybe this is a British humor now, and it was just comedians dressed up, and it was this guy who had a particular record, who was like in his 70s at the time, watching a guy on TV, is in soccer, by the way, and the guy on TV doesn't break his record, and it's like England lose this particular soccer match, and this guy gets substituted, and the 70-year-old is there cheering, you know. It's like, I'm going to keep my record for another couple of years. But it doesn't really matter. In a way,
it doesn't.
You'd want to be alive when your record gets beaten. I don't think Sampras was that bothered, for example, when
he looked happy. He looked like put the stress on somebody else.
As long as you hold it, I think it's huge. Listen, you know, I think from Rafa's perspective, I think the fact that your peer is still playing, I think that makes a difference. But if you're like Pete, who retires with 14 Grand Slams, and then 10 or 15 years later, some other dude comes past, so be it. You know, or if you're, I wonder who had it before, maybe Bjorn Borg, and then you see Pete Sampras come by, or you know, if Roger could have had it, and let's say Carlos had come by, I think that would have been fine for him. You know, if it's someone from another generation, which I think now we're pretty solid now on.
It's not. I don't think the person that's going to come close to 24 slams is born yet.
Maybe not, but let's just and I'm not saying he will, but let's just imagine that Carlos is that guy. If Novak, by the way, retires with a winning head-to-head, let's just say this year he gets his gold medal and he gets his 25th Grand Slam, and he's beaten Carlos a couple of times throughout the year, and he ends his you know, Carlos could then come by even in 15 years from now, and he's like, yeah, but I beat you, you know, and I was the better player when we were there, you know, and I was at 37. And
you really think he's thinking about that?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
He I'm thinking
like
it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
But yeah, I think even for the great, I don't know if he's going to be.
I don't know. There also has to come up. Well, I mean, maybe, you know, money and resources have a lot to do with this, but there also has to come a time where like his kids become of that age where he like has to be more involved, you know, to a certain degree. Like, I mean, his children are all young. Like eventually he's going to turn 40 and things start to shift from what I've imagined and read and researched. Like, I don't think it's going to be like, hey, how much time do I have to get to Melbourne and practice to feel my level to get to want my hands on this trophy that I've won 10 times already. The dip is coming. I just don't know when, but it's going to come. I think tennis is more interesting when that happens. Right now, it's only way I can really see that changing is if the field starts beating him more often. But until now, it's just a wait and see game, which is frustrating because that's not fun. But unfortunately, the army that's been put together and resourced to kind of come up against him has lost a lot of times. So
yeah, and I think sometimes they run out of ideas or belief, and
he does make it hard for them. Like he's a completely solid player in almost every facet of it, but that's what makes him a little boring to me, honestly. Like, what if you're so perfect, what am I watching? I don't know.
I listen, this is again subjective, but I just didn't find him as interesting to watch as
never did. Yeah,
Roger or Rafa, and that's it. And by the way, if you do, you know, I'm okay with that. That's okay. I mean, I remember somebody made a comment on a video from about January last year when we were looking back on the Australian Open, and basically said, well, that was a non-event on the ATP side. You know, that was a non-event. That was pretty boring. And this Novak fan, who I actually know quite well and is fairly reasonable in his comments, said, that was an unbelievably tense final against Stefan Arson. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I'm watching a match, sometimes a soccer match, where my team is winning 3-0 and I'm still on the edge of my seat worrying. But everybody who watches, they're like, well, that was boring. You know, it was obvious
Yeah.
going to win.
Where
And I
was the
get
tension?
that. So when it's your team or your player and you're emotionally invested, you know, you could be watching Serena and she's leading 6-3, 3-love, and you're thinking, hang on, guys, it's not done yet. You know, you don't want to. You might have, even if she won 15 slams before that. And it might be the first round. You know what I mean? You're still not sure. You know, I remember Rafa, for example, in the third set at the French Open final against Novak, and he won the first set 6-love, I think, and the second set 6-2.
Oh, that was a great final.
Right, but
I feel that way. I feel that way because
I
like seeing Novak lose and Rafa win. So
the third set, though, was
7-5, I think.
Exactly, and Novak broke back, and I'm thinking, well, hang on a second here. This could get very interesting, especially if it goes to a tiebreaker. I think Rafa won it 7-5, and yet I'm sure there's a lot of neutral observers would have watched that just going, yeah,
yeah.
You know,
I get it.
I think it was his 13th, and I get that. I do understand that. But unfortunately, this guy said, no, I disagree. It was such a tense final against Tsitsipas, and I was like, yeah. It was also because it was Tsitsipas too, and it's just like he's not doing anything today, and
he's not doing anything anytime in Australia anytime soon. So
I tell you who is doing something, Tomljanović.
Is she? Let's check scores one more time. Did Svitolina get out of her tournament or her semifinal? Looks like she did.
Kerber hasn't held serve, I don't think. So I think
her serve looks much worse than it did before maternity leave.
Okay,
it does.
She broke for 1-love, and then that's the only game she's won in this set.
Her serve has always been an eyesore for me, but the couple of clips I've watched at United Cup, it looks like she's hitting a forehand instead of a serve. That's not good.
She just hit an incredible forehand, by the way, and she has just hit an incredible forehand. She's a pusher.
Yeah, through and through.
That forehand was just like she went for it. It was a neutral rally. She's baseline, just went for it.
The thing that made her 2016, like the thing that made her go from, you know, really good tennis player to Hall of Fame player, there goes Hall of Fame again, is the fact that it all like fell in its favor that one season in 2016, and she just found a way to be that much more aggressive when it really mattered. Other than that, she's a pusher. I mean, some people love pushers. It's just never going to be my cup of tea. Pushing.
I think it's few people's, but hey, again, I didn't have a problem.
Some people love it. There's somebody on Twitter that's like a high power tennis, or I think they call themselves the power tennis hater because they don't like it. I'm like, we're just on two different sides of the universe. But I mean, you know, it's sports. It's sports.
But
some
that's
people like the Lakers.
Populated side of the universe, I think, that they're on. And by the way, I don't have a problem with it. You know, people who love serve volleys, and it's okay. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't offend me. But I just think that most of us are probably a little bit more. Monfils. Yeah, I'll have to. Lucas, we're not allowed, unfortunately, to share the tennis. And by the way, the Holger Rune match has finished. He won in straight sets. But Lucas is asking about the link. But we're not allowed to share. But please do hit the like button and click that button that says subscribe, so we can paint a beautiful picture for you of the tennis world rather than that specific match. I want to. Have you seen this? I'm sure you're getting pretty tired. Nearly called you Damien then, Miles. And I do want to bring this to a close in a couple of seconds. But I want to show you this. Do you know this expression about Monfils?
I'm imagining that means Gael Monfils, right?
Yes. But can you guess anymore?
I have no idea where the actual fleece part comes in.
So he was seen in the crowd, and I was just looking for the picture, but I haven't found it yet.
Oh, in Auckland.
Auckland, yeah.
Yeah, I do remember now.
That Auckland summer, by the way.
Yeah, the camera panned to him quite a bit in the match against Raducanu, and surprisingly, he looks very calm when his wife is playing, whereas when he's playing, his wife is up and down and kind of really
Yeah.
into it. He's
And when
very
he's playing
chill.
himself, he's up and down.
Yeah, that's not, shouldn't say weird, but that's such an interesting dynamic of how they are, because Svitolina is the one that's steady, but watching her husband, she's not steady. She's up and about, and he's the active one he's the active kind of cuckoo one on court, but watching his wife, he's steady. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I've got it. I had a quick look around, and yeah, I found it. But as I say, this tells you a lot about Auckland summer rather than very good.
That's a nice fleece too. I would buy that.
That's a nice fleece, yeah.
Nice
But
fleece.
you know, this is supposed to be peak weather for the New Zealanders right now. So yes, it doesn't get quite as hot there as it does in Australia, where of course it's pretty humid, as Rafa was mentioning in Brisbane, but various other parts of Australia are pretty hot, especially if you go inland.
Tennis Channel is showing us the action between Tomljanović and Kerber. Do you think Tomljanović? What do you think of Tomljanović?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, actually, Mars, because I feel pretty ready to answer this question. I spoke to her at the Billie Jean King Cup, albeit in a press conference, and
this passing one, or the one, or
pardon?
This passing one?
Yeah, the one just recently. Okay. Yeah. And of course, her year was a bit of a write-off, really. I mean, she barely played.
It barely happened, yeah.
I think did she try and come back at some point? It was like one match, I think, around about September, 2 matches maybe.
She won a round at the U.S. Open, yeah, and then withdrew. She was supposed to play Rybakina, yeah.
So, and it was like, okay, and I think she may have rushed back a bit for that. And I was kind of surprised to see her at the Billie Jean King Cup, bearing in mind, that was the first tournament. And then she said in the press conference, and it surprised me as well, that she was thinking about going to Latin America to play some 1-2-5s. And I was like, yeah, you're saying that now, but, it's a long way to go. And then you need to get to Australia as well, blah, blah, blah. She said, I might just do a training block. And I thought, yeah, I think you're going to do the training block. Well, then a week later, I was like, oh, hello. She's in Latin America playing a 1-2-5, and she won it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's that she has taken the tougher route in a way back to Australia in every sense. And yeah, I think she can do some things, not big things necessarily. And I
think she can finally win a WTA level title?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
She's had her opportunities, and I always look at her like I'm seeing it totally. Oh, that was an amazing volley she just hit.
Oh yeah,
that might be the best shot I've ever seen her hit.
A little clap from
yeah. To me, I think I've been watching Tomljanović easily since 2017. She's just one of those players that I happened to see, and I was like, oh, I could kind of see her having a good career, and it never really formulated because there was always an injury. So I would like watch out for her name in the comeback, and then nothing would really happen. And then all of a sudden, 2021, she reaches a quarterfinal. In 2022, I think she gets to 2 more. So like I thought it was happening for her, and I was starting to really go from thinking that she was. This is what I call her, like I don't know if this is nice or. It's whatever. I call her like a lesser Victoria Azarenka, because there's so much about her game that reminds me of Azarenka, but not the same oomph or results of Azarenka. But in 2022 was when I was just thinking that she's going to be her own Tomljanović in her own right, and then it got derailed again. So I'm not sure how that's going to go this year. Like, is she going to get more on her own success, or am I going to look at her as like a lesser Azarenka? I don't know.
The injury came at a very unfortunate time. I think, the back end of 2022, and I think she could have done some big things in 2023. But yeah, winning a title. I mean, who's a more talented WTA player in your opinion? Is certainly more of an expert than me and WTA. Who is the most talented sort of top female player who's not won a title?
Let's look at the rankings, because there's not many. I mean, the women do win the titles pretty often. I was thinking while you were saying that Sarah Sorribes Tormo has 2 hard court titles, and Tomljanović has none. Muhova only has 1 title to her credit. Who has 0? For the longest time, it was Kudermetova.
She's 1-1 now, yeah.
She's 1-1 now.
Good one as well. I've been beaten.
Oh, Kalina, I think, is the highest ranked now currently. Kalinina, I think, is the highest ranked. I don't think she's the most talented though.
I mean, I would probably
Jasmine Paolini.
She's won one. She's won one.
Oh, she has won one. You're right.
Yeah.
Slovenia.
Yeah. So there you go. And if it's Kalinina or Tomljanović, I'm probably saying Tomljanović is the more talented one.
Noskova hasn't won one, but she has plenty of time. Yeah. Navarro is just really making her mark, really, but she doesn't have the WTA title.
She's not that as established. There's also, I've got this very cute moment that I had with Tomljanović and Saville at the Billie Jean King Cup that I'm just sharing on the screen right now, where my camera was slipping. So I've got it held there in like a thing. I don't know how to describe it, a grip thing. And they just started giggling. Saville and Tomljanović, and I was like, I mean, I didn't say anything. I looked behind me to see if they were laughing at something behind me, and it was like, no, they were giggling at the fact that my camera was sort of going down. But it took me about 30 seconds or maybe more to figure it out, and they were sort of pointing, and is it me that you can't be pointing? We've never met, before. I can't see why you'd be having this interest, but it was just the fact that my camera slipped. I'll see if I can. I've got the still here from that. I'll see if I can maybe share the actual. There you go. This is them, and then they just start pointing at the camera. But anyway, so she whispers to Tomljanović, going, "Look at the camera slipping down," and you can't see it so much because I've got it in portrait for me because I've cut it a little bit. But and so look, Tomljanović like, yeah, and they're sort of looking and laughing, and they do eventually, or she points at me, and I'm like. Look, there you go. Look, Saville then points at me, and so does Tomljanović. I don't know what they're talking about. And to be honest with you, by the way, the camera wasn't slipping that much. It was just going down a bit. And they must have been so bored in this press conference that was their highlight.
Is Casey Anthony a new person in the chat?
Yeah, and therefore, what we've got to do, Miles?
Tell them to subscribe.
There you go.
And click the like button if you've enjoyed our banter.
Yeah. Something about Star Wars. I don't know who Casey Anthony is, but as far as they're concerned,
in real life, you have no idea what that name means.
No,
it's an American thing.
Yeah,
she's a what's the word where you're popular but not for a good thing? Infamous.
Oh, it's infamous.
She's infamous. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You already subscribed. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, but I'm guessing that they were accused of doing something they shouldn't have done, and they got away with it.
Yep, pretty much.
I'll Google that and I'll find out. Okay, listen, let's finish this now because we were here to talk about. Oh, I see Tomljanović has been broken. But anyway, we've got other things to come actually, because in a few minutes, Nick and Isabel are going to bring
a
match, and I'm just trying to. It's Sabalenka.
That's tonight.
That's the match of the anchors. We've got the anchors coming up.
Nick is calling a good one. Yeah, I'll probably be knocked out. I might try to be in the chat, but
there you go.
I always look forward to Nick, and Isabel is quickly becoming one of my favorite voices in tennis too. So
there you go.
That's a good one.
A lovely backhand there from Tomljanović, not well from the point. But yeah, they are going to be bringing us the match of the Incas. If you the Incas, no, they're not the Mexicans. Was it Mexican? I think Incas. The Incas no, Incas is Peru.
Oh,
Aztecs is Mexican. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting my history model up there. But yes, you thought the Incas were from Peru? Nope, they're from Belarus, and they're going to be taken to the court very shortly in Brisbane, and Nick and Isabel will be bringing you that. So I'm now going to find the link. I'm going to post it in the live chat, and then I'm going to bring this to an end. But I'm just going to keep talking while I find the link. Who's winning, Sabalenka or Azarenka?
Sabalenka. Although Azarenka does love that court in Brisbane. She's won it twice. And she looked really confident towards the end of that Ostapenko match. But I'm going to say Sabalenka wins because she likes Australia now too. And she just has a little bit more firepower. And although Azarenka is really good at anticipation and counterpunching the aggressiveness, might be a little bit too overwhelming. But you know, she has a fighting chance, like she often does in every match.
I could be getting Azarenka confused. No, I think it is Azarenka. I feel as though she was sort of close-ish to. I did go see. I did get a haircut, but it was about 2 weeks ago when I was in London. But thank you for noticing. I just feel as though Azarenka's been not playing with fire because she's come up against some really good opponents. But Kalinskaya, is it that she was? It was in this. It was straight sets, but she was really struggling to get over the line in that match. And then, of course, we had the match with Ostapenko, and I'm just wondering if we're now at the sort of point that
she said something in the immediate post-match interview on court that she kind of just went into 2024 wanting to see where her game measured up, and she said, like, kind of kiddingly, well, now I know my game measures up still pretty good. So that lets me know that she kind of is thinking about, like, you know, if I can't win out here with these girls, then it's time for me to hang it up. So when she gets those tough wins, even if it is against somebody as rangy as Ostapenko, it's an indication that her level is still good enough to get wins on the tour. So
I promise it's the last one, but because they've donated $2, I think we definitely need to answer it. And how many wins does Iga get this year? I'm not quite sure exactly how that's meant, but
at least 45, at least 45 wins in singles.
It might be framed as in like how many slams, how many wins did she get on the tour last year then?
50 something, I would imagine, maybe 60.
But it could be framed as in like how many titles or how many slams. If you were going to go above or under, and I gave you 1 slam, Miles, for Iga, titles, I think, and probably big ones. And let's start with the slams at least. Above or under 1?
I can't do under, so I got to do above.
Yeah, I think it's.
I can't see her. I can't. As it stands now,
if I had to guess for the year, I would probably go 1.5.
Me too. Yeah, I would stick between 1 and 2, nothing more than that.
Yeah, because Wimbledon, I think, might happen in her career. This is getting quite. I said it would be the last one, but yeah. How many racket smashes for Bublik? Definitely over 1.
I would say over 6.
Yeah, I think so too. Casey, I do hope that's given you something. I'm going for the French Open. I think is a sort of 60% chance.
I would say 80.
You might do, but Iga or the field, and if you're going 80, then you're saying, and maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being too cautious, but I do think that Sabalenka, light day. I know she's beaten her on clay recently in a big match. You know, Mukhova, she's fit. There's a lot of ifs and buts. Coco, I think, is a bit closer to her than she was when they played at the French Open a couple of years ago. I still think she's winning it, but I'm thinking it's more like 60. That's my personal take. And therefore that's it. But Australia is the most difficult slam for her. Courts are a bit quicker, I think, in Melbourne than New York traditionally. And she's never gone beyond the semi-final there. How many lifetime slams for Matthew? I'm going 0.
I'm going to go 1.
Well, good for you, Miles, because Matthew's he's a fan of Rublev's. And Matthew, you've got to check out our Rublev content because we do give him a little love in that content, and none more so than in the review of the. So Matthew, have you watched that review that Jack and I did of the Monte Carlo final? We look back on it in a match of the year. Listen, I've got to go anyway because we've got this match, I think, starting any second between Azarenka and Sabalenka. So thank you very much for all the donations. Come and join us as well. And if we haven't given you a satisfactory response to your questions, particularly those who have donated, you can come back in and join the live chat and ask those questions to Nick and Isabel. I'm sure they'll spread their words of knowledge. Miles, big thanks for joining me today.
Always fun, always welcome. And until next time, when we tune and talk into tennis. I'll butcher that, but whatever.
Tune into tennis. That's where you need to find. Yeah, it's where you need to find Miles. He's doing tune into tennis. That's his Twitter handle, and that's the name of his YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out as well. And we'll speak to you all again very soon. I like this, Isabel. That's very good. Little play on words there from Ghosty. So on that bombshell, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button,
Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.